Dr. Vikki Petersen here. If you saw my video last week ago today, you heard about my little disagreement with a Nightline segment where Dr. Peter Green from New York, mentioned that he saw no good reason why anyone who didn't have celiac disease should embark on a gluten-free diet, and that got me a little irritated, and hence that video. There was quite a firestorm of response to that on both sides of the argument, and it got pretty intense, actually. So I want to give a little fuel for thought, food for thought, something to ponder, and here it is. Imagine you were an allergy sufferer, that when certain plants bloomed, you got so severely allergic that you had very intense asthma to the degree that it was almost a life and death situation. You needed an inhaler, you needed an intense drug, and that was your response to allergies. Let's say then you have a friend, and that friend also responds to a plant when it blooms. But that friend does not get the life-damaging asthma or potentially life-ending asthma, but instead gets watery eyes and itchy runny nose, maybe itchy skin, and your friend is pretty miserable. Would you say to your friend, oh, you don't have real allergies because you don't have life-threatening allergies? Would you think that? How about this scenario? How about someone who has diabetes and has to stop eating sugar? Should that person with diabetes look at anybody else that's wanting to limit sugar in their diet and say, you don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? Are you a wannabe diabetes patient? Now this might sound a little funny if you haven't seen the prior video and you haven't seen some of the comments, but that's actually what was coming at me comment-wise as regards this, that people with gluten sensitivity are sort of wannabe celiacs. As someone with gluten sensitivity, I can tell you, I absolutely do not want celiac disease. I don't know anybody who would. But I also know that consuming gluten is life-threatening to me. That's what the research shows, that whether you have celiac or you have gluten sensitivity, if you continue to eat gluten, all reasons for causes of death increase for you. Beautifully, if caught soon enough and you're off gluten, that normalizes and you're not at increased risk. I recently did a post on my blog, which is glutendoctors.blogspot, and I did a post on schizophrenia. You might think, well, that's not a common disease. It's just as common as celiac. It affects 1% of the population. And in the most recent research, what they point out is that the risk to getting schizophrenia, the association is higher with gluten sensitivity than it is with celiac. So there is an increased risk of celiac with those suffering from schizophrenia, so there is a cause and effect relationship. But that increase with gluten sensitivity is 23% of those with schizophrenia. So let's look at it this way. Say you had a family member or a dear friend suffering from schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is one of the top 10 reasons for disability costs in this country. Not to mention, I can only imagine the turmoil and stress that's created in the family member as well as the person suffering. So let's say you have a dear friend, family member, suffering from schizophrenia, and they are gluten sensitive. But you're in the camp that if you don't have celiac disease, there's absolutely no reason for you to avoid gluten. But now think of it as a family member, and that family member falls within that 23% of when they stop eating gluten, they no longer have schizophrenia. Does that give you a little food for thought? Does that give you another perspective? I have a good friend who is very active in this country in trying to enlighten people about celiac disease. When I was writing my book, The Gluten Effect, on gluten sensitivity and trying to increase awareness, she had never heard of gluten sensitivity. She had celiac disease. That's all she knew about. But she listened. I gave her some data. She listened. And then she had some friends. And those friends did not have celiac. But boy, they seemed like they were potentially reacting to gluten. So she said to them, why don't you just try it? Go on a gluten-free diet, take it out of your body for a month. Let's just see. And one for one, those people all improved. She then got a different perspective. So maybe it needs to hit home. Maybe that's the thing that's going to get us to be a little bit more unified. Because there's no argument here. There's no wannabe celiac, wannabe gluten sensitivity. You're not faking it if you're gluten sensitive. You're really having a reaction. So let's look at it that way and see if we can all get along a little bit better and do what we really should be doing, which is letting more and more people know who are suffering needlessly that gluten is not their friend. Until next time, I wish you very good health.